Wild week in college football this weekend. Let's take a look at some of the Week 13 college football takeaways. Number one, can we be done with the SEC bias here? This conference is not that much better than any other conference this year. Let's just call it like it is. Historically, it is impossible to argue otherwise. It is undoubtedly the best conference. It's probably still top to bottom the best conference this year, but it is not light years ahead of any of these other conferences this year. This conference cannot be viewed and through the lens of, oh my God, it's a gauntlet. The SEC is the best conference. They have the best teams in there. It's not like that this year. We can't look at it like that. We had Alabama, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. All three of them were in the top 5 of the SEC rankings this weekend. All lost, all to an unranked team. Teams with 5 losses on their schedule. And then with the AP has Alabama as number 13 in the AP rankings, one spot out of the college football playoff. What are we doing here? It's embarrassing. Alabama just lost to a 5-loss Vanderbilt, a 5-loss Oklahoma team who hasn't been able to do anything offensively the entire year. And Bama goes in there and they put up 3 points. And we're still going to say, hey, this team with 3 losses, 2 of which were to teams with 5 losses. Yeah, they're the 13th best team in the country. What are we doing here? It's out of control. On the flip side, we got the ACC where it is not as deep. I will grant you that as the SEC. However, I think the top 3 teams are pretty solid, and they can compete. I think with what they got in the SEC, and maybe not the top 2 or 3 in the Big Ten, but they're pretty solid. What SMU is doing and what Miami has been doing, I think they've been great. SMU is going to be a problem. I think they should win the ACC. This year. I think they'll end up beating Miami for that. And also Miami's got to get through Syracuse this weekend. But, what if we have an ACC championship with SMU in Miami? The winner obviously gets in. The loser, are you going to kick them out? Everyone has 1 loss right now. And then you still have Clemson sitting there lurking in a 12 spot in the AP poll this weekend. They could be getting it. If they get a win over South Carolina, you have a really good argument for having 3 ACC teams in there. Kansas, moving on to the Big 12, they're just a freaking Death Star. If you have them on your schedule in November, you're taking losses. They have taken down Iowa State, Colorado, who was the BYU. It's they're just going left and right, taking down the top teams in the Big 12. They are the conference killer. They are the ones that are imploding the Big 12. It's crazy. It's kind of unfortunate to see them hit their stride a little bit too late, because now they can't really do anything with their record. But man, they're looking like the best team in the Big 12 right now with the way they're playing the past few weeks. All right, the Tulane and the Boise State debate. This one's going to get really heated, guys, because you have Boise State, who's been sitting there as the top G5 team for the whole year pretty much. And Tulane has just been quietly lurking, creeping up the polls and taking care of business while they're doing that. They had just smoked Army or smoked Navy, and now they got Memphis on deck. They're 14-point favorites here. If Boise State, if Tulane wins the American, they are going to have a real argument to be the top-ranked G5 team, especially with Boise State kind of playing with their food right now, not taking care of business, getting skating by Wyoming, just have not looked great. But meanwhile, Tulane has been ripping it up. All right, how about the Gators? The Gators are like Kansas in the ACC, or the Big 12 rather. The Gators are taking down these top teams. They took down LSU, they took down Ole Miss in back-to-back weeks. They're a dangerous team right now, and it is impressive what they've been able to do with Billy Napier and him being on the hot seat, and obviously not anymore. They're going to bring him back, but all the adversity that they've been facing to be this good and surging this late in the year has been really, really impressive. And they'll probably end with a win against Florida State and be 7-5, and that's a really good season for them compared to what their expectations were. So good job for them. Alabama, they're our Lulz team of the week. We talked about them at the beginning of this segment, but you can't be going to Oklahoma as 2 touchdown favorites and just get absolutely worked by that and be considered a top team in the country. be considered to be in the playoff. Like, it's just, that's embarrassing. It's just absolutely embarrassing. And how about now, speaking of playoff talk, 14 playoff talk is looking pretty sexy right now. Like, there should not be 12 teams in this playoff right now. There's a few. I think Ohio State and Oregon have separated themselves a little bit. I'll even buy Penn State in that conversation, and then you'll have like a Notre Dame and a Miami and a Texas around there. But like, none of them have been there. They all have blemishes. So this is what I loved about the 14 is the strive for perfection during the regular season, because as you can see this year, it's really hard to have a good record, and no matter who you're playing is, no matter what your schedule is, whether it's easy or not, it is hard to win. And that's what I loved about the 14 playoff. And look, this 12 teams, like, are we really doing these 12 teams right now? Like, Bama is being considered for a playoff position right now. Like, give me a break. And, also in a similar vein, Indiana gets exposed. They kind of got handled by Ohio State. But given everything everything else that's happening around the country, it might not matter. I think they'll still get into this playoff, so long as they just beat Purdue. Obviously, they're not playing in the Big Ten championship, but I think they'll still get in, even because everyone else is losing, especially in the ACC, where they're like, oh, we're going to have 4 or 5 teams in the ACC. You might not get that. I don't think you will get that, actually. But crazy weekend. Now we head into rivalry weekend. Excited for that. Follow Big Body Ball CFB on all socials.